You had the perfect response, the clever comment, the last word that would have proven your point. But did it move your life forward? Hōjō Shigetoki led men, ruled clans, and faced enemies in silence, because he understood a truth most forget. The loudest voice in the room is often the weakest. In this lesson, you will learn a method that warriors used for centuries. How to eliminate the noise, speak only with precision, and act so clearly that words become unnecessary. Why does silence earn more respect than speech? Why do those who speak less often control more? We'll answer that. And once you understand this method, you'll never speak the same way again. This is the samurai method. Noise is a sign of weakness, is less than has shown. 5 hash is greater than. You ever notice how the man who talks the most usually has the least to show? He gives advice he doesn't follow, makes promises he doesn't keep. He speaks to hide the silence he's afraid of. And the more he speaks, the more his words lose weight. Because when your actions are small, your voice must be loud. That's how weak men survive now. They build noise around their lives. Opinions, commentary, over-explaining, because they don't have the clarity to move in silence. But the warrior knows this. The man who speaks often reveals his position. The man who listens learns where to strike. In battle, the one who announces himself dies first. In life, it's not much different. You explain, you justify, you argue, not because it's necessary, but because part of you is still unsure, still looking for permission. Hōjō Shigetoki didn't ask for permission. He ruled with clarity because his mind was quiet. And when your mind is quiet, your decisions make noise for you. The world tells you to speak up, but Shigetoki would ask you this: why speak if your actions can say it cleaner? And maybe that's your challenge. You've been taught that noise means progress, that explaining means understanding, that opinion means identity. But the path of the warrior begins the moment you stop announcing yourself and start becoming undeniable. Who was Hōjō Shigetoki? He wasn't a poet. He wasn't a philosopher. He was a samurai who governed a nation. Hōjō Shigetoki lived in 13th century Japan, in a time of civil war, betrayal, and power struggles. And yet, his greatest legacy was a letter, a quiet, disciplined letter, written to his son, not to inspire him, but to prepare him to lead. Inside it, Shigetoki didn't speak of ambition, or fame, or strength. He spoke of restraint, of fairness, of ruling without ego, and of one idea that repeats through every line: say only what is necessary, act with justice, and control yourself before you command others. He didn't win his battles with charisma. He won them with clarity, because he understood something we've forgotten. Power that speaks too much weakens itself. Shigetoki's wisdom was not loud. It didn't need to be. It was precise, and it shaped generations of warriors after him. Now, centuries later, you will learn the same principles. He passed to his son, so that your words carry weight, your thoughts stay sharp, and your actions cut through doubt. 3 principles of the Shigetoki method. Hōjō Shigetoki left behind 3 principles: simple, sharp, unbreakable. If you practice them, Your voice will carry weight, and your actions will cut through hesitation. 1. Speak only when it brings peace or precision. Most men speak to fill the silence. But silence doesn't need to be filled. It needs to be protected. Shigetoki taught that words are like arrows. Once released, you cannot take them back. That's why the warrior speaks only when his words end conflict, or when they make the target clearer. Every other word is wasted breath, and wasted breath weakens the man who gives it. 2. Rule your emotions before you lead others. Shigetoki warned his son, "A man who cannot control his anger should not command." Think of your life. How many times have you spoken in anger, only to regret it? How many bridges have you burned because you reacted too fast? The warrior is not the man who feels nothing. He feels deeply, but his emotions never own him. And that is why his judgment is trusted. Control yourself first, then you can lead. 3. Act quietly, but let results speak for you. The weak man announces what he will do. The warrior simply does it. Noise is cheap. Results are undeniable. Shigetoki lived this principle. He didn't boast of power. He used it with precision, and long after his voice fell silent, his influence shaped Japan. When your results speak, you don't need to shout. The world will hear you anyway. These are not just rules for a ruler. They are rules for every man who wants clarity. Cut your words in half. Control your emotions. And act with quiet precision. This is the Shigetoki method. Stillness is strategy. In a world that moves fast, the man who pauses seems weak, but that's a lie sold by the impatient. Stillness is not hesitation. It's preparation. It's awareness. It's control. The warrior who can stand without reacting is the one who chooses when and how to strike. Shigetoki understood this. He didn't rush to prove himself. He didn't respond to every insult. He didn't need to, because every time you react out of pride, you fight the battle your enemy chooses. But every time you wait, observe, listen, you take back control. The world rewards urgency, but urgency blinds. Stillness reveals. The man who can wait 5 seconds longer, in conflict, in negotiation, in decision, sees what others miss. He notices the mistake. He spots the weakness. He acts when it matters, not when it's loud. Stillness is not about doing nothing. It's about doing only what counts. And in a noisy world, that is a deadly advantage. The code of the quiet mind. You've been taught to speak up, to say something, to raise your voice or be forgotten. And maybe that worked in school, or in meetings, or in places where noise is mistaken for presence. But the warrior knows something different. He knows that the man who speaks the least often sees the most. That silence is not absence. It is strategy. It is control. It is power, sealed and waiting. The quiet mind doesn't rush to defend itself. It doesn't need validation. It doesn't fear silence, because it's not driven by ego. It's guided by purpose. That kind of mind sees what others miss. It listens without reacting. It observes without announcing. And when it speaks, people stop and listen, because they know this man doesn't waste words. Shigetoki didn't leave behind speeches. He left behind principles. He didn't shout his wisdom. He passed it on quietly like a blade handed in silence. His legacy wasn't loud. It was steady. It was clean. It lasted. And that's the code you now carry. Speak only when your words bring peace or precision. Control yourself before you try to lead others. Let your results echo louder than your voice ever could. This isn't philosophy. It's a method. And now, it's yours. But knowledge without practice is still noise. So here's the challenge. This week, say half as much. Say only what's necessary. Then act. Let your silence sharpen your presence. Let your clarity replace your commentary. And remember, the world doesn't need to hear more from you. It needs to see what you've become. If this lesson spoke to something in you, subscribe to the Samurai Method. Not to be louder, to be clearer. The training starts now. If you made it this far, it means something inside you is ready to change, ready to stop talking, ready to stop chasing, ready to begin sharpening the only weapon that matters, your mind. If this message spoke to you, don't scroll past it. Subscribe to the Samurai Method, not to hear more, but to think less and act better. The quiet mind begins with one decision: to train. Now is the time.